Welcome back, everyone. Before we dive in, make sure you drop your thoughts and the lessons you took from this story in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's get into it. Everett Cole was the kind of man people paused to smile at. In the tree-lined brownstone grid of Brooklyn Heights, he was known as the courteous tenant with the soft voice and the warm smile that seemed incapable of harm. On weekends, he volunteered at a nearby animal shelter, walking rescue dogs under the brisk edges of the morning, sometimes even covering their medical bills without being asked. The shelter workers adored him. The gracious young man who always said please and thank you, never raised his voice, and carried himself with a composure that bordered on saintly. He dressed with quiet, elegant precision, the way well-dressed black Londoners might. A dark tailored overcoat, pressed trousers, polished brogues, and a wool scarf looped with care, dignified rather than gaudy, restrained but impeccable. "Good morning, Everett," said Mariah, the shelter attendant, bustling toward him with her clipboard set close to her chest. Her tight curls bounced as she walked, her eyes bright with the kind of optimism that comes from seeing small creatures saved each day. Everett turned, adjusting his scarf and smoothing a gloved hand down the front of his coat. "Good morning, Mariah," he said, his tone soft, measured. "How is Baxter today?" "Cheeky as ever," she replied, laughing. "He has been sitting by the gate for 20 minutes waiting for you. I swear he knows when it is your favorite hour." Everett crouched, scratching the scruffy terrier behind the ears. "He deserves it," he murmured. "Patience should be rewarded, should it not?" From across the yard, Gerald, an older volunteer with graying hair and the gentle air of a retired teacher, leaned on his cane. "You have a way with them, young man," he said. "I have been volunteering here 15 years. Most people cannot handle a dog with half a mind like Baxter." Everett smiled faintly, his calm expression unbroken. "Dogs are honest, Gerald. They respond to patience and respect. People could learn from that. I see you have learned something then." Gerald chuckled. "Different is one way to put it," Mariah added. "Remember the spaniel last month? The one with the torn ear? You noticed her before anyone else did and paid for her stitches yourself." Everett shrugged with modest restraint. "She deserved it. If we can ease even a little of their pain, why would we not?" A teenager named Lewis jogged up from the sidewalk, waving. "Everett, you are walking Marley today, correct?" Everett's lips curved into a soft smile. "Yes, I promised him a loop through the promenade. Shall we, Marley?" The small black and white dog barked joyfully as Everett clipped on the leash. He glanced back at the shelter workers. "I will see you back in a couple of hours. Thank you for everything you do. It matters. You are sweet, you know that," Mariah said, shaking her head in admiration. Everett gave a faint, humble smile. "I simply try to be. It is the least I can do." As they walked down the crisp streets, neighbors waved from stoops and bay windows. "Good morning, Everett," called Mrs. Harper, a laundry basket perched neatly on her hip. "Good morning, Mrs. Harper," Everett replied, tipping an imaginary hat, his voice calm and courteous. "A lovely day for a walk, is it not?" "Always with you walking those dogs," she laughed. "They love you more than me." Everett chuckled softly. "That is probably true. But you have taught me that love, even from a dog, is the most honest kind." Marley trotted ahead, tail flashing with tireless cheer. Everett's gray eyes scanned the park methodically, noting everything. Sunlight flaring on a window, children laughing by a bench, the gentle grit of tires on pavement. Each detail filed away, considered, assessed. "How do you remember everyone's name?" Lewis asked, catching up. "The dogs, the volunteers, everyone." Everett glanced at him, polite, serene. "I try to remember what matters. Not the names alone, but the little things that make a person who they are." Lewis grinned. "You are unusual, but in a good way." Everett laughed lightly, the leash held with a steady hand, his eyes calm and unblinking. To the world, he was the perfect young man. Kind, generous, patient, charming without trying. Yet as the winter sunlight laid a fine edge along his cheek, something flickered for half a heartbeat in his gaze. A stillness too complete, a calculation too precise. No one noticed. That suited him. Serena Bennett loved the attention that came with Everett. It was not just the flowers he sent, or the quiet dinners he booked in Manhattan's refined dining rooms. though those had their sparkle. It was the little things. The way he rose when she approached the table, how he helped adjust a chair precisely, or brushed away a single speck of lint from her sleeve with a tactful touch. They were gestures people called old-fashioned, the kind that made her friends whisper with envy. Serena matched his polish with her own: sleek wool coat, cashmere turtleneck, a structured skirt, and leather ankle boots, elegant in that formal black London style without a hint of ostentation. They had met at a charity art auction on the Upper East Side. Serena stood before a turbulent abstract as Everett stepped beside her, hands in his overcoat pockets, presence muted and attentive. "Beautiful, is it not?" he asked, his voice pleasantly reserved. He gestured to the painting, but his gaze, gentle and unwavering, landed on her. "It is," she said. "The colors feel alive somehow." He nodded slightly. "I think the artist captures emotion better than reality. That is what I enjoy." Something about his measured tone drew her in. He never rushed to fill silence, never tried to dazzle with noise. He listened, truly listened, and left her feeling seen. By the end of the evening, he had invited her for coffee, and she surprised herself by saying yes. Over the next few weeks, they met often. Everett was consistent, polite, and unhurried. He never seemed distracted by the world, only focused on the moment. One chilly Saturday, he walked her along the Brooklyn Heights promenade, his gloved hand hovering near hers, not quite touching. They stood at the railing while the river breathed cold and steady. "Moments like this are rare," he said. "It is good to share them." She smiled, charmed by his sincerity, by the way he noticed the small stitches of life that other people missed. At a quiet Italian dining room a few nights later, he excused himself briefly, then returned with a hand-picked bouquet of lilies, her favorite. She had never told him. "How did you know?" she asked, struck. Everett simply smiled and placed them beside her plate, his posture subtly formal, as if arranging a still life. It did not take long for them to become a couple. Friends marveled at the ease of it, the way Everett made Serena feel attended to, not smothered, valued, not displayed. He never checked his phone at dinner, never interrupted, never betrayed impatience. When Serena spoke, he listened. When he laughed, it was as if he were enjoying her company as much as she hoped he would. Yet sometimes, when she studied his face closely, she noticed something odd. Not cruelty, not anger, nothing so obvious, just a stillness in his gaze that lingered a fraction too long, a calm so absolute it could feel like measurement. She dismissed it. Everett was excellent for her lifestyle and image. And Dorian, well, Dorian was good for other things. Dorian Reed was everything Everett was not. Swaggering without edges of slang, loud without vulgarity, reckless in a polished, curated way. He worked at a luxury sports car showroom in Manhattan and brought the thrill Serena craved. He dressed like a fashionable black Londoner with a fondness for structured overcoats, slim trousers, and gleaming Chelsea boots. Flash held firmly inside propriety. She had no illusions about Everett. His devotion and wealth were tools she intended to use. Dorian, she knew, would help her exploit them. The three of them spent time together, improbably. Serena introduced Dorian as a friend from the gym. Everett welcomed him without hesitation. Too easily, Serena thought. Everett seemed to like Dorian genuinely. His energy, his audacity, his laughter that rolled across rooms. Serena played her role perfectly. She laughed at Dorian's jokes, leaned into his arm while walking, and shared small confidences when Dorian gently pressed for them. Everett does not see it, Dorian whispered once over nightcaps. He likes us both. That is the beauty. The more he gives, the more you can take. Just do not ruin it. Keep it moving. Serena smiled, tasting the truth in his words. She liked the control, the thrill of seeing Everett bend without realizing. Dorian's reminders turned the performance into a game. Dorian is a good man, Everett said one afternoon, calm smile unwavering. He has energy. He makes people laugh. He is a bit much sometimes, Serena replied, testing. Inwardly, she counted how many favors Everett might grant if she leaned a little closer to Dorian's world. Everett shrugged, composed. People like him keep the world moving. Dorian grinned, reading everything. Exactly, he said, lightly tapping his glass to Everett's. Sometimes you just need a nudge. Everett nodded, oblivious to the undercurrent, or appearing so. There was no trace of jealousy in him. At first, that reassured Serena. It made the game easier. One Saturday evening they gathered on a rooftop bar facing the Hudson. The sky sank through golds and violets. Dorian teased Everett about his immaculate tailoring, his habit of always knowing the right door to open in any room, his hush rather than bravado. "You are like an old-world gentleman," Dorian said, laughing. "All this, and you still look like you walked out of a London magazine." Everett's laughter was soft and genuine. "Thank you. I take that as a compliment." For a fraction of a second his eyes flickered with something unreadable. Then the signal folded back into that gentle smile. Later, at Everett's apartment, Serena kicked off her heels and sank into the couch. Everett poured her a measured glass of wine and set it precisely on the table. "You are too good to me," she murmured, spinning the glass by its stem. "I enjoy it," he said, settling into the armchair with the relaxed formality that came naturally to him. "You never talk much about your family," Serena said. "You said your father had. What was it, a ranch?" Everett nodded. "Yes, a private wildlife ranch in central Texas. It is where I grew up." "Your father loved animals." "More than people, perhaps. That is not a criticism. He had a way of caring that was focused. The ranch is managed carefully. Conservation through management. Some come for guided encounters with big cats. Everything is legal, controlled, audited. It supports the land." Serena pictured vast skies and secluded luxury. Dorian leaned back, interest catching. "Sounds expensive," Dorian said. "It is private," Everett replied softly, a hint of smile rounding the words. "Exclusive. Not many see it." "I would love to go," Serena said. "You should take me." Everett did not answer immediately. He smiled faintly, quiet and measured, leaving the idea to glow between them. Over the next weeks, Serena and Dorian nudged the thought along, joking, hinting, sometimes pleading. Everett listened patiently, never irritated, never raising his voice, never showing even a tremor of frustration. By month's end, plans were quiet and clear. Everett would go first, to prepare. The visit would happen on his terms. Not yet. Not now. As he packed a slim suitcase, Everett paused at the mirror, buttoning a charcoal jacket that sat on him like an oath. He studied his reflection with precise calm. He opened a drawer and lifted a strip of old leather threaded with a small, ivory-colored bead. "Home," he whispered, and slid it onto his wrist. City lights reflected in his eyes, calm, polite, unblinking. The following evening, Everett, Serena, and Dorian dined at a discreet Italian bistro on the Upper East Side. Candlelight polished the edges of glass and plate. Everett sipped his wine, unhurried. Serena leaned forward. Curiosity brightened to a steady flame. "I have been thinking more about the ranch," she said. "It sounds incredible. It is peaceful. A different world from here," Everett replied. "My father believed in balance. Everything is controlled. Some visitors come to see lions and tigers up close, but each encounter is regulated. Every dollar goes back into care." Serena's eyes lit. "A private visit, just the three of us. Sunsets, quiet, the whole experience." Dorian tilted his glass, grinned knowing. "Come on, Everett. You cannot hoard a place like that." Everett's gaze shifted shyly and returned to Serena's eager face. "I will go first," he said gently, folding his hands. "I want to make sure everything is ready. The staff, the villas, the perimeter. It is very private. Things work differently there." Serena clapped softly. "A week later, we will follow." "How private?" Dorian asked. "Remote. About 100 miles from the nearest city," Everett said. "Quiet. Exactly what the ranch was meant to be." Serena tilted her head, already seeing blue pools, dark wood verandas, and a long hush of the hills. "I love it already." Everett smiled faintly. "Patience. I want it to be perfect." The conversation drifted. Everett never boasted, only hinted at the ranch's scale. He spoke warmly of the staff, Tanisha and Simeon, loyal, devoted, practically family. Serena and Dorian listened, enraptured. Every word painted hidden wealth, curated and inviolate, yet welcoming if they followed his lead. Later, while Serena and Dorian stood at the entrance, discussing which coats to bring, Everett slipped into the night. The city's noise lowered, as if in deference. He stopped beneath a street lamp and looked up through the cold glow. He tightened the leather bracelet and breathed once, slow and patient. It is time. His outline, composed and immaculate, bled into the shadows as he walked away. The flight from New York to San Antonio was long but frictionless, and Everett hardly noticed. He watched clouds gather and fall apart, his gray eyes calm, steady. A private car met him and slid west through the rolling scrub and limestone ridges. Simeon, tall and broad-shouldered, greeted him at the ranch's gatehouse, black coat pressed, boots dusted to a matte sheen. "Welcome back, Mr. Cole," he said, warmth barely restrained. "It has been a while." "Thank you, Simeon," Everett said, stepping out with elegant economy. "I trust everything is as it should be." "Yes, sir," Simeon replied, though a tremor lingered in his hands, the kind that comes when a return means more than comfort. The drive wound through acres of fenced savanna grasses, live oak, and mesquite. The main villa appeared like a secret laid carefully on a ridge. Terracotta roofs, wide verandas, stone floors that caught the light like water. Staff moved efficiently, all in crisp uniforms tailored with the quiet good taste of a formal black London house. Black waistcoats, white shirts, trousers with a precise break, sensible black shoes polished to a dusk. Some nodded with affection, others held themselves stiffly, careful. Tanisha, brisk and radiant, hurried forward and gathered Everett into a brief, firm hug. "Everett, my boy," she said. "We missed you." He allowed a small chuckle. "It is good to see you." She led him through rooms already set to his preferences. Furniture aligned, books in their habits, windows open to swallow the light. Simeon stayed near, ready for anything. Both had known him since childhood, their loyalty absolute and their affection undeniable. "You look well," Tanisha said. "The villa is ready, just as you like it. Everything arranged." "Thank you," Everett said, his gaze drifting. "And the arrangements for the upcoming visitors." "We are ready," Simeon said, voice quiet but tight. At sunset, Everett walked the grounds, inspecting angles and distances, noting the gates, the cameras, the clean lines where walls met sky. Staff exchanged looks in his wake, some with simple joy, some with the hush of unspoken questions. Tanisha and Simeon moved freely, smiling and efficient. Everett paused on the main veranda and looked across the hills. A distant lion's roar carried on the air like an oath. In Texas, big cats did not belong, yet on private ranches they could be contained, regulated, fed. Here, everything had a place. "A private plane is arranged for your guests," Tanisha said, coming to his side. "The airstrip is ready." Everett regarded her warmly, gray eyes unblinking. "Thank you. Make sure they feel welcome. Their experience must be unforgettable." Simeon's jaw tightened. Tanisha beamed. "Of course. Everything will be perfect." Night fell, and the villa glowed, the ranch purring with quiet systems beneath the calm. Everett walked the perimeter, his presence composed. The perfect air returned to his father's land. Serena and Dorian landed in San Antonio under a hard sun. A sleek black sport utility vehicle whisked them past the city into rolling hills. Their driver, in a neat black coat and tie, said little. "This is refined," Dorian whispered, elbowing Serena lightly. They reached the private airstrip, dust flat and discreet. A twin-engine plane waited with propellers ticking at idle. An attendant with a clipboard guided them aboard. "Your luggage will follow separately," the attendant said in a steady voice. "It is a short flight." Serena pressed her face to the window as the landscape unfolded beneath them. Winding rivers, knotty oaks, shadows of deer stitching through the brush. At the ranch's dusty strip, they disembarked to final land, Rover gleaming beside Tanisha and Simeon. Their smiles were contained but real. Their attire was formal and crisp, the look of a prestigious townhouse staff transposed into wild country. Dorian whistled under his breath. Unbelievable. The Land Rover rumbled past high fencing and discreet warning placards into the villa's embrace. Serena was captivated. Stone columns, chandeliers, a blue sheet of an infinity pool that seemed to spill into the hills. The scent of jasmine, leather, and something clean lingered. "It is astonishing," Serena said, stepping on the polished floor, as if on water. Unbelievable, Dorian muttered. Little Prince of the Hills. Everett's laughter was soft and polite. It can be overwhelming, he said, but this is home. His gray eyes touched the staff who stiffened in his presence, held for an extra beat, then eased when he smiled. The first evening passed in a blur of care. Serena drank champagne on the veranda. Dorian alternated between taking photos and teasing Everett. Everett remained serene, attentive, the perfect host. Lunch the next day stretched into afternoon. Dorian had been drinking. He leaned back, eyes bright and slightly unfocused. "So, Everett," he said, gesturing at the villa, "you live like a prince, and yet you cannot keep your woman happy. She sneaks around with me." He smiled too broadly, performance turning into danger. Tension bit the air. Tanisha's face cooled into silence. Simeon stepped closer, expression controlled but edged. In a voice as low as gravel, Simeon said, "You will not humiliate him again." The words were almost polite. Underneath them, iron. Dorian blinked. "I was joking." Everett raised a hand. "Leave him, Simeon. He is drunk. Forgive him." He looked at Dorian. "Forgive me. My people are loyal. Sometimes that loyalty is emotional." His faint smile smoothed everything. Simeon stepped back. Dorian laughed too loudly, then failed to meet anyone's eyes. His bravado dimmed into something else. Serena tilted her head, amused by power playing quietly around her. Everett guided the meal back into calm. That night, as Serena wandered alone past framed photographs, a young staffer with hesitant eyes approached and bent slightly, as if to whisper a warning. Before she could speak, Everett appeared, a polite shadow at Serena's shoulder. "Is everything well?" he asked. The staffer straightened, flustered. "Yes, Mr. Cole," she said, retreating. "It is easy to forget how overwhelming a new place can be," Everett said, guiding Serena back toward her room. Morning revealed a sky already brewing a storm. Everett led them on a tour, pointing out how the cats were housed, how the enclosures interlocked, how every gate was a question and every answer was double-checked. "The lions rest in the heat of the day," he said. "They hunt mostly for dominance. A lion will challenge another to assert a place, to keep control of territory." "That is incredible," Serena said. "You really understand them." "They are creatures of instinct," Everett replied. "Like people, if you watch closely. Subtle behaviors, patterns. Patience is everything." Dorian rolled his eyes. "Not every cat needs a lecture." Everett laughed softly. "You might be surprised. Observation is enlightening." They watched zebras and giraffes, rescue animals cared for under strict permits, move with measured grace within broad enclosures. Serena followed Everett closely, catching each quiet insight as if it were a rare coin. Dorian wandered ahead, phone always raised, jokes worn thin by the open space. By evening, clouds massed and folded upon themselves. A storm cracked the horizon. Dinner was served on the veranda, candles shivering in a breath of wind. "A strong line is moving in," Everett said. "Power may flicker. Storms do not scare me," Dorian said. "I will sit by the pool with a bottle and enjoy the show." Everett's faint smile did not change, but something in his voice darkened half a shade. "Do not stay out too long. Lions become restless when it rains. The smallest disturbance draws their attention." Serena shivered. "Lions," she echoed. "Relax," Dorian said, carrying a heavy bottle toward a lounge chair near the pool. Tanisha frowned. "Sir, the pool is close to the fence. It is not safe." Dorian waved her off. He was already a little unsteady. Minutes later, a staff member appeared with a platter of roasted meat. Dorian reached greedily, then paused, glancing around. The veranda had emptied. The villa seemed to hold its breath. The wind rose. The storm hit. Rain hammered the roof. The lights flickered and went dark. Shadows turned the walls into a pulse of moving shapes. Serena, curled in an armchair now, thought she heard a sound outside. An abrupt shout cut short. Her heart leaped. Everett appeared beside her with uncanny timing, hand brushing her shoulder. "It is all right," he said. "Storms play tricks with the ear. Every roar and rustle echoes." "I thought I heard someone," Serena said. "The lions are active at night." "Yes, but you are safe. Stay inside. The storm will pass." The rain rattled and pushed. Outside, the enclosures seemed to shift against the dark. Everett stayed beside her, a calming presence, an anchor in a room that shook. Morning lit the plains in hard gold. Serena awoke to birds and distant roars. She stepped into the hall and looked for Dorian. He was nowhere. "Where is Dorian?" she asked a staff member. Everett emerged immaculate as always, in a crisp shirt and trim trousers, a wool cardigan that might have stepped off a Chelsea street. "He went out with the Rangers for a morning trek," he said. "I thought you might enjoy seeing something special. The lions are fed in the mornings." "I would like that," Serena said, curiosity taking the reins. The ride to the feeding site was short. Staff moved with routine precision, placing heavy cuts on stone platforms behind a double-fence run. Lions prowled beyond the barrier, eyes catching the daylight like lit coins. "Go on," Everett said gently. "Try tossing a piece. They are used to visitors." Serena laughed nervously and tossed a portion. A lion lunged and caught it. "They are astonishing," she said, already reaching for another cut. Her fingers brushed an odd shape, meat inked with the trace of a tattoo. The symbol was unmistakable. Her breath stopped. Dorian wore that design on his forearm. Serena stumbled back and screamed. Some staff exchanged faint, knowing smiles. She looked to Everett and froze. He watched her with a calm intensity, gray eyes unblinking, patient as if timing the waves on a shore. "Everett, what happened to him?" she asked, voice trembling. Everett's expression softened into something like regret. "He wandered," he said. "Predators love it when prey strays from the herd." "You said he went with the Rangers," Serena whispered. Everett exhaled, almost sympathetically. "He was warned to follow instructions. Tanisha warned him. Lions are curious when humans make mistakes." He lifted his hand, and for a moment the air tightened. When prey forgets the order, predators correct them. Dorian wandered. He made mistakes. I helped nature along. Serena's vision narrowed. The calmness in his voice, the measured pauses, they chilled rather than soothed. He was not grieving. He was teaching. "The wild is unforgiving," Everett said gently. "That is why it is beautiful. Every creature has a place." Dorian forgot his. A faint satisfaction flickered in his eyes and was gone. "And now," he added, "we move on." Serena's chest heaved. The world tilted. She turned to run, and a hard blow landed at the back of her skull. The ground lifted and vanished. She fell into blackness. She woke bound to a chair, the ropes biting at her wrists. A single lantern pooled a small circle of light in a room sparely arranged but careful to the point of reverence. Everett sat across from her in a high-backed chair, posture exact, hands folded. "Everett, what is this?" she said, the edges of panic showing through. He tilted his head and smiled. "Good morning, Serena. I will tell the police everything." He reached into his pocket and held out a phone. "Go ahead," he said. The screen showed no service. "We are 100 miles from any city. Even if you shout, no one will hear you. Someone will come looking for me," she said. "You assume people know you came here with me," Everett said. "I left New York alone a week before you arrived. You never made it here. Perhaps you left New York and never reached Texas. There will be no record. No bookings under your name for the final leg. No one at the airstrip who remembers your face. Even if they suspect, who will believe the shape of it?" Serena's mouth opened and closed. "There must be something, security, cameras. Everything here is mine," Everett said. "What is recorded is what I choose to keep." Panic surged through her like static. Everett stood, smooth and unhurried. "You may run if you wish," he said. "But the lions are faster. And very patient." He untied her hands and gestured to a side door. She obeyed, legs shaking. He led her into a smaller chamber lit by dozens of candles. In the center lay a low table. On it sat a skull. Around it, trinkets, small figurines, dry blooms. The air was heavy with incense. Everett knelt and placed his palms beside the skull. His voice trembled. "Father, are you proud of me now?" His eyes brightened with tears. "I brought you another." He shook his head as if apologizing and asking blessing at once. Serena stared. "What is this?" He stood and faced her. Calm returned to him like a coat pulled close. "I will make him proud," he said gently. "Only then will he love me." The candlelight made an angel of his face. The room smelled like iron and earth. Serena backed away until the rope at her ankle tugged her short. Her scream scraped her throat. The thunder of lions rolled beneath the floor. Everett brushed a lock of hair from her forehead with the care of a lover adjusting a veil. "The ranch needs balance," he murmured. "Predators must eat. That is the world." From the shadows a lion emerged, golden and massive, his mane a dark crown. He was called King. Everett had raised him from a cub. King padded silently to Everett and pressed his head to Everett's hand. Everett's gray eyes met Serena's, unyielding. "Hunt," he whispered. Muscles coiled. The lion moved like a drop curtain. Serena's scream tore once and cut to nothing. Later, when the lion's breathing slowed, Everett stroked King's mane with the tenderness of family. He turned to the aftermath with clinical quiet, lifted Serena's hand, and removed a finger with swift care. He examined it as if it were a rare specimen, then placed it in a velvet pouch. King watched, patient and loyal. Everett walked a narrow corridor to a locked room. Inside, it smelled faintly of antiseptic. Shelves held jars, bones, and glass cases. Each case bore a date and a single letter of the alphabet, each arranged with the precision of a museum. He opened a jar, set the finger within, and affixed a label. He stood back, his eyes sweeping the room. It was a gallery of devotion and ritual. Each preserved piece was not just a life taken. It was a promise to a father who had demanded order. The door opened softly. Thurman, a tall senior keeper with a face as disciplined as a drill sergeant's, stepped in and bowed his head. His suit fit him like a vow, dark, spare, perfect. "Your flight to New York has been arranged," he said. Everett inclined his head. "Thank you, Thurman. Make sure the lions are well fed and treated with care." Thurman's lips curved slightly. "Of course. Your father would be proud." Everett's faint smile deepened imperceptibly. "I hope so," he said, and turned toward the window where hills ran out into light. The world outside remained oblivious. He stepped off his plane at John F. Kennedy International Airport with the same tidy grace he had left with. His suitcase rolled at his side, coat collar set just so. To anyone watching, he was a gracious, impeccably dressed young man returning from a quiet holiday. Serena was gone. Dorian was gone. No one knew. He slid into the back seat of a black sedan. Manhattan rose around him in glass and steel. A message slid across his phone, a question from Serena's friend. He ignored it. Everything had its place. That evening, Everett sat at a small bar in Brooklyn, the kind that did not advertise itself. He stood out only because he did not try to stand out at all. Pressed shirt, dark trousers, a wool coat folded neatly beside him. She walked in. Young, careful, unaware. She wore a dark tailored blazer over a soft blouse, trousers with a measured line, and simple leather flats. The look said dignified rather than fashionable. Everett lifted his hand in greeting, his smile gentle. "Hello," he said. His tone was warm without lingering. She smiled back and settled 2 stools away, then drifted closer when he did not press. "Do you live nearby?" she asked. "I do," he said. "A few streets over. I have not seen you here before." "I have been away," he said. "Work and family matters." "How was it?" "Quiet," he said, and took a careful sip. "Clear." She told him her name. He repeated it softly, then asked questions that were gentle and exact. He listened. He remembered. "You are very attentive," she said, finally. "People do not listen like that." "One should listen," Everett replied. "It makes the world easier to navigate." They talked long enough for comfort to lace itself through the conversation. When she left, he did not ask for a number. He allowed the moment to breathe. Outside, he walked slowly home beneath a thin winter moon. He stopped once beneath a street lamp, looked up, and touched the old leather bracelet at his wrist. The city hummed. Somewhere far away, lines of jars stood in a quiet room, counting the alphabet 1 letter at a time. Back at his brownstone, he hung his coat precisely and smoothed a hand down its sleeve until the wool lay flat. In the mirror, his gray eyes reflected the smallest suggestion of a smile. The patient, silent predator within him waited. It always did. He thought of the ranch, of Tanisha's efficient steps and Simeon's watchful calm, of Thurman's slight bow at the door. He thought of Serena's last look when she understood. He thought of Dorian's smile that finally could not hold. In the morning, he walked to the shelter in brogues that whispered rather than clicked, his scarf tied with careful minimalism. Mariah waved when she saw him, and held up a clipboard. "Baxter is waiting," she said. "I am glad," Everett replied. "He has been patient." "You look rested," Gerald observed. "Travel clears the mind," Everett said. He knelt and clipped the leash on Baxter, then looked up at Mariah. "Thank you for all you do," he added, and he meant the exact words he chose. They watched him leave, the dog trotting happily at his side. He moved like a man with nowhere to be and all the time to arrive there. Measured, gentle, unhurried. "He's a good one," Gerald said. "The best," Mariah replied. Everett turned the corner and allowed himself the smallest smile, his eyes calm, polite, unblinking. He noted the play of light on glass, the hush of wind in bare branches, the cadence of a jogger's footfalls, a ledger of details that fit neatly where he put them. He was the perfect gentleman. That was what the city saw, and it would continue to see him that way for as long as he wished. If you enjoyed this story, please like, comment, and share this video with your friends. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a powerful story drop.